The way that I write independent film, independent content is I do it backwards from Hollywood. So Hollywood makes a script, they lock the script, and then they find where they need to make the script. They find locations and actors, and they build sets, blah, blah, blah. So they have the funding to go in that direction. But for me, I go backwards. I say, what do we have access to? And then I write for that.
Hey there. Tonight, we're tracing how an indie filmmaker can wear multiple hats and still protect performance and theme. Cadell Cook builds from purpose to page to picture, then compresses on the day without losing the beat map. His recent work spans intimate dramas like Perfectly Us and Forgetting, found on Tubi, and sharp short-form comedy like the Funday Monday skits that are amassing millions of views on YouTube. He's folding all those lessons into a new feature comedy. We're here to learn the playbook behind the making of the films that he's already created and how those films are traveling now. Produced by Allegory Productions, and we'll name this agency later, this is The Opening Scene with Cam Lawson and Cadell Cook. Cadell, thanks for joining us, man. I'm excited to jump into this conversation.
Happy to be here.
As we were just talking about, you're saying your writing journey, your filmmaking journey, actually might have started from the storytelling journey into a book.
Yeah, so I started creating my own stuff by writing a sci-fi supernatural novel. I was making short stories too, but back in 2010, I started writing a sci-fi novel. And I was finished. I self-published in 2014, and while I was studying story and the craft of writing fiction, I didn't put any energy in studying marketing. So nobody knew about it, And the people that read it liked it, but it didn't get much traction. So that's kind of how I found my way towards independent filmmaking, because the reason why I wrote the story was because I wanted it to be a movie one day.
Okay.
I was trying to follow the path of Stephen King, and in the way that he built his own universes and stuff. And
that's a lot of books sold.
But yeah,
and turned into movies at that point too, from a Stephen King universe.
Right, and but he just the idea, the concept of creating your and the freedom of writing your own stuff without any kind of limitation. So what started me writing was I discovered his Dark Tower series. And the Dark Tower series has everything in it. It's not just like a vampire thing. It has vampires and cowboys and time travel and interdimensionals. It has everything.
Yeah.
So the freedom of that particular universe is what made me want to start writing my own stuff.
You have two films that aren't in the sci-fi world, at least the ones that are released out there that you recently kind of put together within Forgetting and Perfectly Us. They're not in the sci-fi world. What made you pivot from the sci-fi world to the genres that those movies encompass? It's
complicated. It's money.
Okay. Yeah, that was it. No, nothing else. Just money.
Sci-fi is expensive.
Yeah.
So my personal passion is in sci-fi because that genre is so freeing. You can explore silly stuff and deeply political stuff, and you can explore anything in sci-fi because you get to build a world from nothing. So I've always been attracted to sci-fi, but to do sci-fi indie, because I don't come from visual graphics, the type of sci-fi I can do is a little limited. So I could do something that's time travel only if the time travel is within a week or so. I don't want to do period pieces because period pieces become expensive.
Yeah.
I could do my first big short film, 4 Points, had a little bit of sci-fi in it because it had lie detector wristbands that I kind of made out of stuff that I found on Amazon. So the things that I can afford with practical effects I can do, but I stay away from sci-fi at this level because I just don't have the personal abilities in visual graphics, and I haven't had a budget that I'm comfortable with to be able to do sci-fi.
So the budget has forced you to kind of shift your genre a little bit. Are you still writing sci-fi? You might not release anything, but again, you love the world so much, and character and story sounds like such a fun part for you, especially now. If you had wrote that back the novel back in like 2014. And it's like in that sci-fi realm. We're sitting here in 2026, not talking about the lapse of time, but just more so the advancement of technologies that might have enabled you to tell more sci-fi stories. Has like the thought come back to you of like, maybe I dive into it a little bit more?
Oh yeah. So so sci-fi, supernatural are like areas that I kind of want to touch on that I've always had a personal interest in.
Yeah.
And I have been trying to think of how I can implement the newer stuff, the dreaded AI. That's what I call it. How to implement new technology. I've been thinking about it. I've been writing outlines, but I haven't like made a whole script yet because I've been just working on what I can do. So it's like two different ways of thinking. It's like, do you write stuff that you want to, your dream stuff you want to do in the future when you get the budget, or do you put engine stuff you can execute? So I've sort of shifted to focus on stuff I can execute now, build my fan base, build my demographic and stuff, and then go from there.
Is that where we're getting into one of the things you've been writing and just actually filming and acting in as well? The Sunday skit, or excuse me, the Funday Monday skits came from?
Yeah, Funday Monday skits became big by accident.
Tell me about that.
So I wrote a comedy feature.
Okay.
And I wanted to, film it. But to that point, and so far, I've only directed drama and, the little bit of the touch of sci-fi and stuff like that. So I haven't directed comedy. I've heard that it's a different muscle. So I wanted to do something to practice directing comedy. So I just started doing skits. And at first, I was writing and directing skits for other actors.
Yeah.
And then, situations changed. So it was better for me to get in there with someone who was available. And I took some acting classes, and I just started acting just so I could continue developing the writing and directing comedy. I've always been silly, but I've never directed silly, So it was it started off as a way to just practice the craft of directing comedy, and then, people started to like it. So
when you're thinking of those skits now, like what is it that's helping you build it? I know you said like you're practicing that muscle, but is there something like the character that you're looking to continuously develop? Is it just like the overall story each and every single time? What's the driver when you're like, okay, like this skit this week's gonna be this, next week's gonna be this?
It's different. It's different every week. It's different every skit because it's like it depends on what the joke is.
Yeah.
So, and I'm trying to expand the universe. So it started to grow when Darcy and I are playing boyfriend girlfriend.
Darcy is your acting partner,
right? She's the scene partner. In the earlier ones for this like season.
Okay.
Of skits. So it started with it being relationship stuff. And then, it started with being age gap relationship stuff because I'm 10 years older than her.
Okay.
So it started with that, and then it just became relationship, and now it's becoming more, so it's growing from there. So the way that I write independent film, independent content is I do it backwards from Hollywood. So Hollywood makes a script, they lock the script, and then they find where they need to make the script. They find locations and actors, and they build sets, blah, blah, blah. So they have the funding to go in that direction. Mm-hmm. But for me, I go backwards. I say, what do we have access to? And then I write for that. So I know what actors are available, what locations do we have, what props do we have, who can help with makeup and wardrobe. Okay, this is what we got. Now, what can I write to make that make sense?
Do you feel like it's helping you writing in that backwards or in that reverse manner at this point? Like what do I have? It's forcing you to be creative, like obviously with those tools. Or is it like, do you feel restricted even when you talk about, say, the sci-fi thing where you don't have the money to go do what you really want to go do, and so you're having to just write it and set it to the side? But with comedy or like within what you're writing now, do you feel like writing that opposite way has like, and then the restrictions of that have helped you?
Yeah, it's very helpful. Yeah. And I say that because, I haven't worked in the Hollywood environment as a writer-director, but if I've heard interviews with, Scorsese and, Spielberg, they're always chasing time, and they're running out of money. Tarantino, time and money, it's always the same thing. So even at the higher levels, they're still dealing with that limitation. So I'm just getting really good at it at a lower level So if when it comes to the time that I do have access to a bigger funds, then I'll be ready to deal with bigger limitations because I'm already working with it. So I think that working with this kind of it ends up becoming a writer prompt. Like you only have, you enter those writing contests, write a story that has a red apple and a mountain in it. Okay, go. But for me, it's like, what actors do I have? What are they good at? What locations do I have? Go.
You had talked about doing things that when you're thinking about the book, like having to find different ways to build audience. And so you shifted from the book to get into more of like the filmmaking because it's just a way that audiences consume more. Do you feel as though like the Funday Monday skits is helping really build that audience for you to kind of transition them into like your longer form?
That has become part of the plan.
Okay.
Again, it was just supposed to be me practicing directing comedy.
Yeah.
But we are adjusting I think you got to be flexible.
Especially in this industry, absolutely.
Yeah. As an independent artist in any industry,
world,
yeah. And in this industry specifically, because it's in this huge shift in the indie level and in the Hollywood level, you should be flexible. So we are trying to figure out how we can use Funday Monday as a jump off, as a springboard to do bigger projects.
Or is the audience, like their reaction, how they're commenting, things like that, kind of influence any of the things that you're thinking about for the long form, or even when the next skit that you do for Funday Monday?
That's a good question.
Oh, thanks.
That was the first good question. Well done. So naturally, when I'm reading the comments and stuff, I think it might infiltrate my thought process, but I think my goal is to not allow it to, because, when you start changing your content to please people, then you're no longer unique. What made me unique to the audience is because the joke came from me. So if I start doing what I think they want, then I'm just sort of, it doesn't come from me anymore. It's me trying to please them instead of me making what's unique to me. So I try not to allow that to influence, but I guess it does indirectly.
Well, maybe for the short form it might, but I also, like, on the other part of that question is like how, I believe you're working on like comedy features. You said that's really where this started from with the Funday Monday skits, just kind of developing that muscle. How have the reactions to those, whether it be certain punchlines that you have, like how has that really kind of developed that muscle for even the long form film that you're working on?
Oh, I think that the development of my directing and writing like skill set is happening in the background. Okay. So I'm not really aware of where it's just practice, the 10,000 hour thing. So that's just happening in the background, but I don't think that it's directly affecting what I'm writing, how the jokes are coming out. But I do think that I am learning a tighter rhythm of a joke, because the skits are around a minute long, and you kind of have to establish the context of the joke like within 5 seconds. And you got to explore what makes it funny, and then, drop the punchline and then drop a button. And so it has to happen like pretty quickly. So I think that I might bring that into a longer format, or it might affect like the jokes per page, or in a longer format.
It sounds like a full structure that you have with every single skit. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah. Okay. So the structure of my joke started by me reverse engineering Key Peele's structure.
I think that's a smart case study.
Right. Good place to start.
Yeah.
So, and I say that because their skits sort of have the same rhythm, where they basically introduce a joke, they beat it to death, and then they give you a different button at the end. They flip it at the end. Joke, beat it to death, button.
Got you.
So I started with that. I tried to emulate where you introduce whatever the premise is, and you explore it, because their skits are longer than the ones I'm doing, the shorts I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So they explore it for a little bit longer, but it's still the same thing. You joke, you work toward the punchline, and then you give us a button to get us out of there. So yeah.
Sometimes they talk about writing what you know, like you're writing your experiences, and maybe they're referring to more like the long form. But like for your short form, like your comedy, like are you just kind of off the cuff, or is like lived experiences that you're really pulling from? or can you not answer?
I can answer in a certain way.
Fair.
Let me answer safely. The humor that is relationship driven does come from my past experiences.
Okay.
But obviously I'm making light of, difficult stuff. So, any kind of interesting scene has conflict in it. So I understand relationship conflict relatively well. So that stuff is coming from, not all of it, but some of it comes from my, history. Some of it comes from, stuff I've heard. And I'm exploring concepts that are relatively universal, at least in my generation. Like I just put out a skit about a guy being jealous of his girlfriend's ex who has like bigger feet than him, right? So he just finds it out. So he's like jealous of it. So he's trying to figure out how to remain like the man to her, but admit that part. Right? See?
Say no more.
So I have not experienced that, but that's a general, topic that I think we can explore. So and I got this from Kevin on Stage, where he said in some interview, it's more important to be relatable than funny. So the goal is to make something that connects with the audience, and I'm still trying to make it funny, but it needs to be relatable in order for people to really connect with it.
Let's take a step back, because we started going to the long form side of things, and that's what you really kind of wanted to get into was the long form storytelling. But you do have two projects that are actually in the long form, the feature space, where we talked about with Forgetting and Perfectly Us. Let's talk about Forgetting. Excuse me. If you can, for our audience who's listening, one sentence, how would you describe Forgiving?
Forgetting is about a family finding hope while dealing with the early stages of Alzheimer's.
Why that topic?
Oh, well, I grew up I've always had some form of Alzheimer's in my family for like as long as I can remember. So my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my aunt had early onset Alzheimer's, and that's kind of what started my how I had to deal with it directly because she was closer to me. And more recently, my mother had it and passed away from it. So it's been, and also aunts and uncles, great aunts, great uncles elsewhere, but it's been in my life for as long as I can remember. And it's always been difficult to talk about. So I know that I'm not the only one who has difficulty exploring that area. And I wanted to give people a seed that could help them talk about it with their own families, with their friends and stuff. Because some people experience it from a distance and don't know how to talk to people who are experiencing it directly, and they just need an introduction so that it'd be easier to help people.
Was writing it for you kind of like a release, and as much as it was informative and instruction for the audience? You just said like giving them an option or possibly finding a way to have these types of conversations. What was that like, again, for you to be living with it in so many different forms? What is that like for you when you go into writing that?
Yeah, it did a lot. It was a release, but it was more an opportunity to help people discuss what is like next to impossible to discuss. So it was like the writing process. It was sort of what I was saying before, where we were still limited with like actors and locations and stuff. So I still started backwards in what I thought I had access to. And then I wrote a story for that because I thought we had access to a farm, and I was always going to write it with Milan, either as the lead or the supporting actress, but she was like my producing partner from the beginning on that. So we started like that, and I wrote the script, and then we started looking for locations and casting and stuff. So yeah, so it was like back and forth, but it was the driving force behind that was to connect with people who have experienced it and to like help people discuss it, because it's impossible to talk about in some cases when you're really close to it.
For sure. I think that's with a lot of family dramas, or not just in real life, that is, where like you're dealing with loss or heavy sicknesses or illnesses, it's really tough to find the words to kind of discuss it.
Right.
And that's why it's also like to think about you kind of living that process and finding the words. But you found the words, I'm not sure in your real life, but you found the words for the on page was.
Yeah. And it's interesting for me because it was easier to write the script it's easier to write the script than it is to talk to some members of my family about it.
Why is that?
Because like the way that my aunt had it, I was too young to really help, and part of me feels like guilty about that. So, it's just like that. Alzheimer's and dementia is like a hard disease to cope with if you're close to the family member or friend, and depending on how it shows up in them, it's just tough.
When you talked about for the independent filmmaking style that you have, as far as like working backwards, and I think about this story, I'm curious, like when you start writing the film, what did you start with? Was it the character for this? Like knowing that there's certain things you want to explore? Was there like a turning point that like we have to have this twist or like this moment that's where you're going to drive someone to the realization of this? Or again, is it still like I have access to a farm, so we got to build us around like, okay, we have to have a farmer. We have to have like, that's really still building you around that.
Yeah, it was, with Forgetting, it was as simple as we believe we have access to a farm, and I have all this personal knowledge of Alzheimer's in the family. So let's make those two things work. That's really where it started.
Got you.
Yeah.
Was it different for Perfectly Us?
Yeah, Perfect Us was a very different project.
How so?
Very different project. Perfectly Us started as a web series.
Okay.
That's not even right. Sorry, scratch that. Perfectly
We'll
Us.
cut that from the edit.
Just leave it.
We're actually, yeah, we're going to
I'm used to stumbling.
I'm letting you know we're keeping it.
That's right. Keep it in. So it started as a short scene. In Perfectly Us, there's a scene between the father and the son in the kitchen.
Before we dive into, can you describe Perfectly Us for if someone hasn't watched it?
Sure.
Shame on you.
Go watch my movie. Which camera? What? It's on Tubi. Everything's on Tubi. Perfectly Us is about a divorced couple still in love. They got divorced for the wrong reasons, so we're exploring what it's like to be in love with someone who you have who you've divorced in an incorrect way. Like you got divorced for the wrong reasons. So they're still in love. So let's see if they can get back together.
Okay, and so you were talking about father-son scene.
So it started with an exploration of what it's like to think of your spouse, think of your partner as perfect, and how that can be dangerous, right? So the web series was called Perfect. So because it was a father and son discussing what love is and what it's like to fall in love with, to think that your partner's perfect, the father is coming at it at the angle of he was in love with his son's mother and he thought she was perfect, but he found out all the flaws later, and he discovered them in a way that was off-putting, or like he felt blindsided because this whole time he was thinking of his woman as perfect. So, but his son just meets his first love and he calls her perfect. So he's like, I'm about to warn you, man. If you think your girl is perfect, you don't know her at all, right? So it was just like it started as a conversation, and I put that one scene out as like a short film on YouTube. Okay. And then enough people were like, well, they wanted to know the backstory. What's going on with the father? What about the girlfriend? And this and that. So I was like, okay, well, I guess we could make this into a series, right?
Audience reception. Look
so
at that.
It was a good reception. So that's when we made the next 2 episodes, and then we made 2 episodes after that, and it was like a 5-episode series. And then we actually entered that into ABFF, and it got into ABFF in 2021.
Congratulations!
Thank you. As a web series, but we later wanted to conclude the story because when you write something as a series, the conflict has to keep going. but we wanted to conclude the story of the mother and the father, and then the son and his girlfriend. We wanted to conclude the story of the love story. So we wanted to make it into a film so we could conclude that arc instead of keeping it going. And in order to do that, we had to film stuff that would happen before, in between, and after those episodes that we already had.
Did you include some of the reference? Did you include some of the series like that into the actual feature then at that point?
That's right.
Okay.
So we basically took it off of YouTube and we repackaged it as a feature with additional scenes in between the episodes to make it feel like a feature.
Are you the sole writer on these two projects we talked about, Perfectly Yes and Forgetting?
Yeah.
How, I'll just stick with Perfectly Yes, just curious, like how difficult was it to like, you already have essentially like the meat and potatoes of a whole story from a series, and then to come back and like, let's kind of rework this a little bit from the front and possibly the end, or even some of the middle for it to flow cohesively from start to finish.
Right. So you have to be 64% crazy.
Okay. Are we about 70?
I'm at a 78,
okay.
80.
On a Tuesday? Or
Most time. Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know to the crazy part, the percentage part now. It's like, I got you.
So, yeah, I'm the sole writer and creator for Perfectly Us. And I basically, since I knew the story in a very intimate way, it was easy for me to, not easy. It was clear, but it wasn't easy. Like I knew what I had to do. I knew that because I had this conflict ongoing. I knew that I had to begin it. I needed a stronger beginning. Yeah. I needed a clear ending. So the episodes ended up becoming the middle of the movie-ish. I had some things kind of break it up, but basically the episodes were in the middle, and I gave it a stronger conflict introduction, and then a strong act 3 to sum things up. That's mostly what it was, but we interjected some things to make it feel fluid. I'm giving all the sauce away.
No worries. I mean, there's a masterclass here and there for every single person, whether it be the comedy skits now we talked about already, and whether it be actual writing if you want to turn a series into a feature. Unfortunately, this is not a paid subscription for a podcast, so like you're not going to get any funds. Maybe next time. Maybe that's the next upgrade that we have for it, but. So, Cadell.
Welcome back.
You have a different voice now. What is happening here? No, so before we cut to that break, though, I was just going to ask you just about Perfectly Us. Like you were saying, like when you're combining these different pieces to the story, like that might have had it brought its own challenges, but you had stumbled on, like, it might have been kind of difficult to write Perfectly Us. What was the difficulty or challenge in writing Perfectly Us?
Right, because the conflict was continuous in those 5 episodes, and the challenge was, how do we make it feel like a feature? How do we make it feel like we've started something and finished something in one piece? Mm-hmm. And we ended up like introducing 2 characters that represented the glue of the story, right? So, but coming up with that was not like obvious. Yeah. Yeah, so we just had to like trial and error some stuff, and I have a couple of like different outlines of what I was gonna do. I don't remember what they were, but I ended up with adding these 2 new characters, and them becoming the glue of the story.
Not to play a spoiler, but I think Perfectly Us, you are a character that randomly pops up in the film. Is that mistaken?
In Perfectly Us?
Is it Perfectly Us or Forgetting?
I was in Forgetting.
Okay, Forgetting. Yeah, I remember seeing you at a bar.
Yeah. It was, we don't need to discuss that.
Oh, cool. All right, let's stay with me. No worries. We came close, but it's all right. No,
that's fine.
It kind of blends into like the question around like just the I think for so many different independents, like the multiple roles you have to play on both of the projects we're talking about, and even if we include Funday Monday, like you're writing, directing, and in certain points acting. You might be doing a lot of the post-production behind the scenes of it, not really sure what that really looks like. Knowing that you have a post-production background, you might decide, I'm going to take some of that on. I want to just stick with the writing and directing first. Okay. And talk about the balance of that. Like, how do you approach that knowing that you're going to, like, does that feel easier or better for you when you're writing something that you know that you're going to direct?
Well, okay. The writer hat and the director hat, I don't let those cross.
how do you stop that from crossing?
Right. So when I'm writing, I'm just thinking of how it feels on the page.
Okay.
I am imagining the story and how it's flowing within an environment, but that's just my imagination. So when I'm a writer, I'm not thinking about like the blocking or the location at all, really. Mm-hmm. I am thinking about the strengths of the actors. So I am pushing the characters in a direction where I think my actors can execute. I am thinking of that. But I'm just making sure that it's strong on the page, that it's clear on the page, so that I don't have to explain too much to the actors. It's all like there. And when it's time to direct, I'm just sort of adjusting the blocking for the environment, right? But when I'm on set, I have to let go of the writing hat because you got to, because you're handing the characters to your actors. I've established them, and hopefully we've done some kind of read through or rehearsal or something, and we have the spine of the characters, but you're handing them over. So you have to give them the freedom to adjust the line for the character, right? So in order to do that, when I'm writing, you see, what are my hands doing? You see this? I get precious. I get really precious over the word choice, because I'm really thinking about the character that I'm trying to create and their emotional state at the time. So I do get really attached to the word choice as a writer. But as a director, you're the character now. You tell me how they feel, and then I'll just direct you.
But you all have a lot, I assume, like there's a lot of table reads, rehearsals prior to actually turning the cameras on at that point. So you know as the writer, and I guess to a certain point in that pre-production, the director, like these words fit, or this character is able to bring these words to life in a way that I'm happy with as a writer before you even get to that directing stage. Or in the table read, do you have to kind of, maybe in that you're wearing both hats because you're listening as like that director? Right.
In the table read or rehearsals, I'm still listening as a writer.
Okay.
Because I want to be able to adjust for the actor. So if they can't say a word clearly, or it just doesn't feel natural, usually that's what it is. It's just that I wouldn't say it like this. I would say, okay, well then we can adjust, and I just need to make sure that it still fits in the whole plot, or you don't miss. In the way we change it, we're not dropping something important for the plot or the character arc, or something like that. Okay. So I am thinking as a writer during the rehearsals. But when it's time to direct, I think what it is, it has to do with the writing. You're trying to make it clear on the page for the people executing the movie. So on the page, it needs to be clear for the actors and maybe for your AD, maybe for your gaffer. If the tone is clear, then they're going to light it a certain way. You know, you're trying to make it clear for the filmmakers. But as a director, I'm thinking about the audience. So I'm more concerned about the emotion of the moment. And if I need y'all to remember the lines, I'm not thinking about the lines. I'm thinking about the emotion of the moment. I need it for the camera to be telling that story and for the actors and the blocking to be telling that story. The emotion of the moment.
It's heavy for you to have like a script supervisor or someone who actually is paying attention to those words. Then when you're having to balance those hats.
Yeah, for sure.
You're trying to literally throw one hat off from that writer's perspective.
That's right. I have to, because they're changing my words, and I hate that. As a writer, I hate that. The words on the page, read the word. I hate it. But as a director, I'm like, I don't care about the words. Give me the emotion. Tell me what's going to happen with your eyes. Because as filmmakers, we are moving audiences emotionally. We're not giving them information. If we were giving them information, it doesn't matter how it's delivered. You could just say the words, this is what my character thinks, goodbye. That's information. We're trying to make somebody feel something. So as a director, I'm making sure that the feeling is connecting with the audience. So the word choice and stuff, I have to let that go. I need for the actors the characters to portray the emotional moment. And I have to, keep track of the storyline and all that kind of stuff. But it's about conveying the emotion. Yeah. So I have to let go of the meticulous writer thing, or my head would explode.
We don't need that.
Yeah, it'd be messy.
Yeah, especially on set.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. Crafty.
Yeah, medics may not be there in Independence. So.
There's no medics.
First aid kit?
We got insurance.
This is recorded. I'm sorry. Just to be very careful how you answer this.
Right. Okay. The Fifth Amendment is effective.
That is until you actually agreed to be on this podcast. It was a consent form.
Here we go.
Let me back up to just the director hat now. You're on set, and let's just shoot straight with the Perfectly Us. Is there a scene that stands out to you that you absolutely go back to every single time you think of that
movie? What do you mean, in the movie or
in the movie
that
you love as a director?
That I love as a director.
I kind of want to know the one that you're not gonna say now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Okay. Well, I think that the opening scene to Perfectly Us is the one that stands out because that's the first scene of the movie, and it establishes the conflict, the core conflict, but it's the last thing we filmed. And you know, because of that, and because it was so important to making it into a feature, and because like I've been walking this path with my two leads with Tiffany Yancey and Michael J. Patterson. I've been walking this. We filmed this series over 5 years, so I've been technically making this movie for 5 years.
Wow.
Right. So with that being the last thing we filmed, I guess it was the second to last thing we filmed, but it was like the last big scene we filmed. That one really stands out.
I also want to just make a note that you perfectly said the opening scene without me prompting you to say it, and you're full of your answer. So
the opening,
really good. Thank you so much. Anyway, going back to
the opening scene, ladies and gentlemen.
You had said it took 5 years to do this, though. Can you break down, like, it was 2 years of writing, 3 years of filming, which would be concerning, but like 2 years of like.
Well, no, it's because it started as a web series. So because of the evolution of it,
including that. Okay,
that's right.
Got you.
Because it started as a short scene, and then we put it out, and maybe we put it a web series, and over the web series we did those next 2 episodes, and then we put it down, and then we said this is still really good. We have more to say, and we came back and did 2 more. So it was like because it stretched over that kind of span in making it as a web series. That's why it took 5 years.
Got you.
Yeah, but you know, making it into a movie that was like 6 months. You know, filming those last few scenes after I wrote the additional scenes, and we executed it relatively quickly.
Okay, so 6 months from the rewrite to
from writing the additional scenes that we needed to make it into a feature.
Okay.
Into having a finished edit, it was like 6 or 8 months, something like that.
Got you. You started this saying that you felt filmmaking was just like the best avenue to galvanize audience or attract audience and build an audience, which is why you kind of shifted away from the book. How has audience reception been for Perfectly Us and also Forgetting?
I think it's been really great, and they are 2 very different movies, and they affect 2 different types of audiences. But when we premiered Forgetting, initially it was called Forgetting Christmas because it has themes of the holidays, but it doesn't really fit in the Christmas genre that well because most Christmas movies are either family comedies or rom-coms, and this is a family drama. It deals with like a difficult issue, so we took the word Christmas out of the title. Anyway, when we premiered Forgetting, we premiered at the theater in Silver Spring, AFI in Silver Spring, and we packed out both big theaters. We had 2 showings, and the reception was like unbelievable. We got a standing ovation in both theaters. People were in tears, thanking us for helping them feel seen, feel heard. People who have experienced having a family member with Alzheimer's. It was, or just dementia. It was really impactful, and since it's been on Tubi, we've had a similar response. We've had other viewings through, like, Montgomery County has sponsored some of our other showings so that people can see it in person, and we've the Alzheimer's Association has been present at those showings so they can answer questions afterwards. It's become like as I had intended it, for it to be like a seed to start a conversation.
Yeah. You talked about your book, like you weren't the marketing maven to really kind of carry the book forward, especially as an independent. You're still an independent artist. What would you say is the different marketing tactics or methods that you use to kind of push your films into the spaces you have now?
Get somebody else to do marketing.
Okay. Smart move.
Know your lane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wear a lot of hats on set. I think I'm really good at like 6 things. But like marketing is something I can get better at, but I'm just not, I don't have instincts in that world. And it takes like equal or more effort to market a film or any project, comparing that effort to making it itself. So creating the project and marketing the project is like 50-50. So by the time I'm done with the project, I'm like squeezed dry. You know what I mean? I got nothing left. So I need help. I need help marketing. So I have had, since, the book, it was just me. But for my other projects, I've had more people help me out. And I just, it's just right. As an independent filmmaker, you're independent, but you still need a squad. Yeah. Got to squad up. You got to have a team because filmmaking is a team project.
Somebody else said the same thing. Production is a team sport.
It's a team. You can't do it solo.
Very much true. Yeah. Before we kind of completely close down here, have two more questions for you. One, why is filmmaking important to you?
Filmmaking has become my my lead creative. I've been a creative. I've been a creative my whole life. Like I started playing in the school band in the 3rd grade, and I've been a musician throughout my schooling, and I've always been writing and writing shorts and like poems and stuff, and so I learned music and I learned sound, and then I learned self-taught writing, and then I learned the post-production, and I learned the basics of filmmaking. So everything that I've been learning throughout my whole life, it is all in film. Because I started in music, and that's like one of the last parts of making a film is mixing in the music. And that's still like where the magic is. That's where something goes from being something that I filmed or something that I'm acting in to being a standalone, like its own thing, is when the music is added. So filmmaking is really important to me because I've always been a creative, and it feels like it's all of my life's creative, like all in one thing.
I thought you were going to say impact, so that went a little different.
Whatever you said.
She's joking with you. Is there a question I didn't ask that I should have asked?
What?
Is there a question I didn't ask that I should have asked?
Where can people see your stuff?
Okay.
Good question.
Yeah, thank you. That's only the second one.
Take a watch. Good question. Only the second good question. So Forgetting and Perfectly Us are both on Tubi, and I've been the skits that we talked about. Funday Monday skits is on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, and we're at the point where we're trying to get those monetized and stuff. So the more people, more subscriptions we have, more views we have, the better. So,
well, they heard you. Well, 10 people that might actually watch this afterwards, but those 10 might lead you to that monetization.
That's what we need. I need 10 more views.
One person who knows how to do it. Yeah. Could be the marketing person.
Could be.
You never really know.
Yep.
Either way, Cadell, I thoroughly appreciate you coming in and talking with us.
Glad to be here.
Hopefully it was as informative for you as well.
Sure.
Before I let you go, I always do this. I ask Sed if he has a question for you, because he deserves to always ask a question.
Okay.
There's multiple. You have 2 more questions.
2 more questions.
Sure. All right, so Sed was too shy to ask the question just now. So he texted me saying, you mentioned creating within your budget as a way to build your audience. How do you see that process shaping the kind of work you'll make when you're able to work with larger budgets? And how do you prepare your audience for that evolution?
I think that just like we were saying about working backwards, the idea of writing with limitations, financial limitations, is like an extension of the other limitations that you're going to have, whether it be time or whether it be someone on set getting sick, all that kind of stuff. You got to get used to adjusting. So, audiences don't see how much adjustment happens pre-production, production, and post. You just don't see it. You just see it in product. But when you're in the mix, you have to be flexible. So it teaches me to be more flexible in different areas and creatively. And that's really difficult for me because of just the way that I think about my creative. After I write it, I feel like it has already happened in my head, and now we're just filming it. But when it's time to film it and things are changing, you just got to let go of all that. So it teaches me to be more flexible. In terms of how the audience is adapting or is interpreting the work, I don't know. We have to ask them. But I think that I think that being limited the way that I have been in indie, it just means that when the budget shows up, I will, even if it's considered a micro budget, it's still going to be a solid plate of gold for me.
Say more than you might have to work with first.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see what that looks like as you, jump into your sci-fi bag more. As you get into more of the comedy, just the more projects, more work. It's been fun to watch both projects and also the skits. So I'm looking forward to your comedy feature that you're diving into.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you.